Hey, welcome back to another episode of Life After Divorce. I am your host, Chris. I believe we're on episode 17. It's kind of becoming a running joke now as to how often I get these right. But today I'm going to talk about trust. And that sounds like a boring topic. Hold on. Trust is something that is applicable to every relationship you have in your life. I'm not just talking about your marriage or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. No, I'm talking about everything from family members, neighbors, friends, board members, your coworkers, your superiors, everybody you interact with, obviously your children, but everybody you interact with from a day-to-day standpoint. You have relationships with all of those people. And oftentimes, trust gets taken advantage of. It's just assumed and it's taken for granted. And we do it in all of our relationships. We've all done it. Think about the relationships that you have deteriorated in your life. Why did they deteriorate? Oftentimes it comes back to trust. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of things around trust and how it can drive your relationships forward or how it can deteriorate your relationships. Some of you already know John Gordon is one of my favorite authors. He recently wrote a piece about trust, and I want to share a few of those with you today. He mentions that trust is built one interaction and one day at a time, and yet can be snapped just based off of one poor decision as well. It can be broken. It can end in a relationship based on one poor decision. Of course, he says, so make the right decisions. But it goes a little deeper than that. As far as trust goes, there's a couple things that I want to highlight on trust. We've all heard it. Do what you say what you're going to do, and then do what you say. Like, okay, that sounds pretty obvious. But not so fast. Here's the thing that oftentimes happens is if you get known as the person with all talk and no follow through, are we as your group of friends or am I going to trust you if you constantly say, well, I'm going to go do XYZ, or I'm going to accomplish this, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to take care of this, or hey buddy, I'll be there for you on Saturday. Well, if you don't show up on Saturday, or you have excuses as to why you can't help me on Saturday, or you don't show up and don't do or don't follow through or whatever, we have a trust problem. But again, it's always just assumed. It's never something that we tend to focus on and work on. Hence why we have problems in our relationships. So there's the do what you say and say what you do aspect to it. Okay, I can handle that. Communicate early and often. This is a big one with our relationships. And again, I'm not just talking about your significant other. I'm talking about all the relationships that we have in our world. And what happens is when we don't communicate frequently, when it's intermittent, poor communication, sometimes no communication at all. And again, think about it. Friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, whatever. What happens is I'm going to use my hands. I know that shocks you, but I'm going to use my hands. What happens is you start to have this deterioration in the relationship. And this space that you're seeing here gets filled with self-doubt, worry, concern, fear, head trash. It gets filled. Evil. I mean, that's the devil's playground. Is when we have space that can be filled, he's going to fill it. And so what happens is that over time, if that doesn't get addressed, this continues to happen until it snaps. It's a deterioration of a relationship. So frequent communication, even when this starts to happen, can grow its way back together and clear out those voids and those spaces that get created. Remember, short-term gain can oftentimes lead to long-term loss when it comes to something that can be a short-term success or a win for me can actually be a long-term loss in a relationship. Case in point, I mentioned earlier, like, hey, like, buddy, I'll be there to help you on Saturday, and then buddy doesn't show up. Like, some trust severed there, but buddy didn't show up because buddy had an opportunity to go do something else. Like, that was a short-term gain for him or her, long-term loss in our relationship. I'm probably not going to call that buddy back again next time I have a need, especially when it's something that I really need, hence why I needed the help. Think about these different examples. And again, these are all just different examples. And I haven't mastered any of this. Why do you think I'm bringing it up today? I'm having the same problems in all my relationships throughout my world that you have as well, hence why we're having this conversation. So I'm preaching to the choir here. This is not something that I've mastered by any stretch of the imagination. Always do the right thing. And you go, okay, yeah, duh, always do the right thing. Even when it's not popular, and especially when it's difficult. So this is going to flip the short-term gain, long-term loss on its head, because this one is a potentially short-term loss, but actually a long-term gain in a relationship. If you do the right thing, even when it's difficult, even when it's not popular, and I may lose this friend over this because I'm going to make the right decision and do the right thing, oftentimes it's a long-term gain too, because if that friend really is a true friend, they're going to see in the long term not only have more respect for you because you did the right thing, but actually see you as a person of integrity because you did the right thing. Versus, man, it'd just be a lot easier if I just made the decision to do this because it's just easier. It wouldn't be as difficult. It's not the right thing to do, but man, it would just be a lot easier if I just go this route. Again, that's a short-term gain, long-term loss. But if I'm committed to doing the right thing, if that person really is an important person in my life, they're going to see that. If they're not, that's also a long-term gain because you don't need that person in your life. So if I'm committed to doing the right thing, making the right decision, even when it's difficult, the people that see that and see you as a person of integrity will actually have more respect for you in the long run. Finally, and this is the difficult, maybe the most difficult of all the points that I wanted to make today, own your mistakes. Be willing to admit your mistakes, own your mistakes, and for heaven's sake, share your mistakes and what you've learned from your mistakes, especially with that party which you made a mistake with. And the reason I say that this is probably the most difficult one, open your social media. Look at the social media that's out there. Are we all sharing in our mistakes and failures and things that we've done wrong? Hell no, we're not. It's our human highlight reel. It's where there's unicorns and rainbows and Care Bears, and it's all the positivity that's in our world. We don't ever share our mistakes on social media. Why would we do such a thing? Because it's the real life that we have. Like, being willing, now think about this, again, it's difficult, it's not easy. Being willing to own your mistakes. We are flawed by nature. You can look back at Adam and Eve. They made mistakes, and it's trickled down ever since. So we kind of have been able to blame Adam and Eve in our jokes and in our long run. However, instead of just blaming somebody else, like, own your mistakes. I made this mistake. I did this. Here's what I've learned from it. Again, because when that happens, and I make mistakes and I make the wrong decision, this is what's happening in the relationship if it didn't snap. So how can I mend it and make it come back together and work on that relationship and make it stronger? By owning, admitting, being transparent with that party, with your mistakes, what I've learned, and how I'm going to get better at it in the future. So, again, a couple quick takeaways from today. Don't take advantage of trust. Don't assume trust. And don't just take it for granted, because it's something we have to work on every single day in every single relationship that we have, or these relationships will deteriorate and eventually snap. I appreciate all the emails. Keep the feedback coming. I love it. Keep sending me those emails and the messages. Until next time, have yourselves a blessed day and a joy-filled life. Take care.